Welcome to the Shellonomics Podcast, presented by King Midas, your ultimate source for pure Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles entertainment. Stay tuned and dive deep into the Turtleverse with us. Catch all the action on YouTube and Twitch for non-stop Ninja Turtles adventures and retro gaming thrills.
King Mike and the heroes in a half shell.
Alrighty guys, this is episode 5 of Shellonomics, and we're talking with the man who has done podcasting for 5 years for the Ninja Turtles here, calls this podcast Turtle Tracks. Over 100 episodes in 5 years. We're joined by Brian VanHooker. He's interviewed the likes of some core characters from the original Ninja Turtles cartoon. He's also talked to Steve Barron, who was the director of the Turtles' first movie. He's also had Kevin Eastman on the show, Judith Hogue. Brian, how's it going today? Thanks for joining us.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you asking me.
I'm a big fan of yours for a while. How did you come up with the name Turtle Tracks? What was your origin story, and how did you come up with the name Turtle Tracks?
Actually, I owe that to a guy named Rob. He's still the host of a podcast called Turtles Forever. And back then it was called Turtle Flakes. And I started listening to him, and basically what had happened was, so my job for a living is I'm a writer. I've worked for a handful of different magazines, and mostly what I do is interview people about various TV shows, things like that. And I started doing the podcast because I was, I'm a little tired of, I wanted just more excuses to talk to turtle people. That was my whole thing. So I wanted to talk to Kevin Eastman, the voices of the 87 cast. I wanted to talk to turtle people, and I figured the podcast is a good excuse to do that. And then I got a little bit involved with the guys from Turtle Flakes, and a name suggested by Rob over there was Turtle Tracks, and that was also the name of the first episode of the cartoon, of the 87 cartoon. It was also the letters pages in the old Mirage comics was called Turtle Tracks, and out of sheer coincidence, now in the in the IDW comics, Michelangelo has a podcast called Turtle Tracks.
The podcast pretty much covers everything, right? It goes from the 87 cartoon, the comics. It seems like you've touched on every kind of turtle fan base there is.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of my goal with the podcast is, I'm very big on, no negativity towards any era. I have my favorites, everybody does, but I also feel like the internet is full of, screw this version or that version, and I really despise all the negativity around any fandom. So I make a point to kind of touch on every single era. I've had the guys who were the showrunners on Next Mutation, and I spoke to the guy who was I spoke to several people involved in the musical tour from when I was a kid, which is one of my favorite areas of interest or whatever. I had the guy who played Bebop in the Michael Bay movie, in the second Michael Bay Turtles. So my goal is to kind of touch on everything and always bounce around to different eras of the Turtles, just because I think all of them deserve some love. So.
Oh, and you mentioned this in one of your episodes too. I agreed with you when you mentioned about Bebop and Rocksteady. If that second Michael Bay would be focused on them, they were spot on with how Bebop and Rocksteady were.
Nailed it. They nailed it. I don't love those movies. I don't like to go into it, but I really don't enjoy them very much. But Bebop and Rocksteady from that second movie, man, they just nailed them. They got those characters down. They were a lot of fun.
Yeah, 100%. So how did you choose Pat Fraley for your debut show? Your first episode featured Krang from the 87 series.
I did release that first. I don't remember if he was the very first person I spoke to. It's been so long since I started. It's probably it's 2018. So what's that, 6 years ago? So I think I had 3 or 4 ready to go, and then thought, okay, who's either my biggest get, or which was the most a kind of a good introductory episode, and then decided Pat Fraley, because he was just great too. He was super gracious and really fun to talk to. I also thought his voice would be really recognizable, especially for the classic fans. So yeah, he was. I don't remember if he was the very first person I interviewed, but at some point I decided he was the first person to run with. So,
did you have any other favorites you interviewed from the 87 series? It was probably hard to choose one. It's like asking your favorite who your favorite child is, but
I mean, from the 87 series, honestly, those were the guys who I was most interested in. 87 series is still my favorite Turtle anything. That and the 90 movie. So, and to me, there's something magical about those four guys: Cam Clark, Rob Paulson, Barry Gordon, and Townsend Coleman. Those to me are the voices of the Turtles. Like, they've had many great voices since, but there's something special about those four guys, and I think they helped elevate that show to a different level, and was a huge part of the reason why it was so successful. So really, honestly, it's those four guys that were like a huge motivation for me in doing the podcast at all. And when I reached my 100th episode early this year, I had all four of them together for like I did like a quick, like, basically like a trivia episode where I quizzed them about their own parts in the show. And yeah, that was my 100th episode, was the four of them together. So
I do recommend anybody listening to Shellonomics, head on over to Turtle Tracks and definitely check out that episode. It is a lot of fun. Pretty much Brian's like the Alex Trebek pretty much of that show there, asking all the guys, and I don't care, like, they're like trying to recollect, like, what was, like, you know, there were a couple of great questions. I don't want to spoil any. I want guys to check out that show, but I had a lot of fun listening to that one too. Now, I saw on your Instagram too, you've actually met those four voice actors in person. What was that like?
You know, they're honestly, and I'm not like, they're just super nice. Like, I've met Rob Paulson several times. I've attended Animaniacs Live a bunch of times. I've also been to various cons. And sometimes I'm able to go backstage with a press pass or whatever. So like, I'm able to like, not like to talk to them a little bit more where it's not so crowded and crazy. Yeah. So, I mean, they're all four of them are super nice. Cam is like the most like lovable, nice guy ever. Just super sweet and funny. And, just, I don't know. I mean, in Townsend, I've interviewed Townsend a bunch of times. I just interviewed him again for a piece I'm doing for work about the tick. So I can't say enough good things. The straggler out there for a while was Barry Gordon. I talked to all three of them, and then years went by before I was able to get Barry, and finally I got him, I think last year. Yeah, and he was just awesome, and it was important to me because Donnie's my favorite also. So and then I had them each individually, and then we're able to bring them back together for the 100th. So
I think everybody I've interviewed so far, everybody mentions Donatello. Andrew Farrago, I think, was a Donatello guy. John Coleman was a Donatello guy. You're a Donatello guy. He's everywhere. And I guess, is there any love for Leo out there? I mean, you've interviewed a lot more than I have. Have you met any Leonardo fans out there?
Actually, yes. And I just interviewed Playmates not long ago. Okay. And Leo is the top selling turtle. He sells more than any of the other three.
Oh wow! Okay.
Which is weird, because when we were kids, I'm not sure when you were born, but did you grow up with the '87 show?
Yeah, I was born. Yeah, I'm going to be turning 40 this year, so I'm pretty much in your era with the '87 cartoon and first movie. Yeah,
so like in our day, like Leo was not the coolest turtle.
Yeah.
Like it was Raph and Mikey at best. Like it was always Raph and Mikey, and now it's Leo's definitely the best seller. I've met a lot of people who actually found Leo to be their favorites, because I think it's because a lot of times it's the weapons. Although
Donatello for the video games, it was always Donatello. For that first Nintendo game, you're picking Donnie pretty much.
Well, yeah, he had the range, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Although I have a theory as to why you're going to find more adult Donatello fans. I think, like, the Donatello fans are the nerds, and I feel like the nerds will stick with the turtles into adulthood, whereas the other ones might outgrow it. So, yeah, that's my theory.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And I actually met those guys too at Comic-Cons, those four, and the way they appreciate their fans. They are so grateful for us, and just how they take their time with everybody when you meet them in person. Like, I didn't feel rushed at all when I met them for an autograph and a selfie. They didn't say, "Hey, how you doing?" Next, they actually sat there, talked to you. Yeah. If you were full of joy, they'd give you a hug. I mean, they were just, and like you said too, Brian, just how, I mean, they're pretty much like brothers in themselves. I mean, they stick together. They go to these Comic-Cons together, and to actually have all four of them on your show for your 100th episode too, that had to be such a special moment for you.
It was a huge deal for me, because that was, like I said, those were the guys I grew up with and remained the most connected to. And yeah, I mean, I had the same experience you did, where it just like they really do. They are clearly close friends, and it's great that they are so tight, because that's not that common for any show, really. That's just that's very rare. And they're all super nice and like really gracious to the fans. So they're good guys. They really are.
Yeah, I highly recommend if you ever see these guys listed as guests at your Comic-Con, go guys. It's worth the investment and the time.
Yeah, they were just announced for Granite Con, which I'm excited about because I'm going to that one. So.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, and I think they were at a Ranger Stop Con not too long ago too. This summer. It was like a Power Rangers Ninja Turtles kind of like meetup.
Oh, nice.
Which was a nice one too.
Very cool.
So let's see here. So we already talked about your mission for the podcast. So can you explain like a day in the life for you when it comes to your podcast routine? Like, because it seems like you're kind of not sporadically. Like, do you have like a routine you go through on your podcasting?
No, I don't. I mean, for the longest time, I was not the most regular with podcasting. Like I would do 3 episodes and then you wouldn't hear from me for a month and then go back to it. And it was mostly because like I only am interested in having guests. So like that was the whole thing was I only wanted to do shows with guests. I only wanted to do interviews. The idea of me going through an old comic book and telling you how I feel about it, I would bore the shit out of myself. So I can't imagine wanting to do that for a podcast. Other guys do that and they're much better at it than I am. I would tire of hearing myself talk. I wasn't always super regular because I didn't always have guests lined up, and you know, my job is pretty demanding. I have a daughter too, so like it wasn't always able to kind of make it all line up. But for the past year or so, maybe 2, we've done it pretty much weekly, where I've been able to release new episodes pretty much every Monday, give or take. Sometimes I miss a week here or there. Honestly, what'll happen is I'll tend to kind of do it in spurts. Well, I'll email a ton of people, see if they want to come on the podcast, and I'll interview them all. Like I might interview five guys in 1 week, and then I'll kind of space it out. And then when I'm running low, my backlog is running low, then I panic again and send it to a bunch of people. So it's not really the best, most organized system, but it seems to be all right. So
like you have fun and you stay motivated. That's the whole thing too. Again, just congratulations again for having, I believe you said 6 years of working on it, but I think it was 5 years of production, right? I think I saw I looked you up on SoundCloud.
The first one is listed in 2018. It is 5 years ago.
Yeah.
September 10th, 2018 is what it says on SoundCloud. So I guess whatever.
5.5, 6 years. Okay.
Yeah. So whatever that is.
Which is incredible just to have that stamina of not being burned out, because when you start following podcasts, you'll see they go for a month or 2 and then they just, fizzle out. So again, congrats on the success so far. And how do you decide who you want to interview?
I mean, honestly, I don't discriminate. It's more like I try to mix it up. So like if I haven't had anybody on from the 2003 show in a while, which I haven't, and I gotta get back on that. But like I'll interview, I'll send out a bunch of emails to people from that show and see if they're interested. I've done a lot of work with IDW directly, so a lot of their artists and storytellers and writers, I've had them on through them. Honestly, I'm just a fan of it all, and I just kind of follow my whatever kind of fascination I have for that week. Like I said, for the Christmas episode, I did a Christmas episode last year, and every year people like in the turtle community talk about "We Wish You a Turtle Christmas." It's this really terrible TV special. I don't know if you know about it. It's awful. Yes, it's terrible. But I wanted to talk to somebody involved in that, and eventually I found the woman who wrote it, who's like this. She's like an amazing children's author. She writes all the Dr. Seuss books that are like produced now. She's written like literally thousands of children's books, and in the 90s she wrote 2 turtle specials, including that Christmas one. So I had her on, but it's really just like what kind of thing haven't I hit on, or that occurs to me at the moment. So yeah, it's not really that much very systematic. It's just who haven't I reached out to yet?
Yeah, when you have 40 years of ground to cover, it's just like so wide open.
Like that's what I like. That's what I liked with the format was like I didn't want first of all I didn't want to like have a certain time set. So there are episodes that I have are like 20-minute episodes, and that's fine with me because like it just depends on how much people have to say. Or I have ones that are like an hour and a half because like I just did an episode with Sophie Campbell and Tom Waltz that lasted almost 2 hours because we were talking really in depth about their run on IDW. But that was cool because there was a lot of ground to cover. But I've also talked to guys like the guy who played Shredder in Coming Out of Their Shells tour. And it was just kind of cool to find this guy who played this weird part 35 years ago and had some anecdotes about it. So yeah, I kind of didn't, the only kind of thing I stick to is, that it's only interview based. But other than that, it's kind of like anything Turtles goes. If somebody was an extra as a foot soldier in Turtles 2, I want to talk to them because that's interesting to me. So.
Oh, and you've had people in there, like I believe you've had I'm probably gonna botch it. Michelin Sissy, the actor who played Michelangelo. You've had him on your show, right?
Yeah, he was a suit actor for Michelangelo. He was super nice. He was cool. It sounds like being in those suits was no fun.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, just again, the magic of that movie is great. And like you were saying, just with all the people you've interviewed, just how selfless are these people in this Turtle universe we have here, Brian? I mean, it's incredible, isn't it? The time they give you.
Oh yeah. I mean, so many of them have just been super generous with their time, and I've gotten like drawings from people and stuff, and yeah, it's been cool, like to kind of connect with people. I've gotten to know others, like my favorite turtle artist ever is a guy named Ken Mitroni, who was the Turtles Adventures artist when I was a kid, and I've gotten to know him. And recently got to meet Chris Allen, who was the other major Turtles Adventures artist. So I've gotten to meet a lot of these people and connect with them and all that, and it's been very cool. So I mean, I'm glad I started the podcast simply as an excuse to meet these people, and that's exactly what's happened. So
just a real quick one now, since you brought up Turtle Christmas, are you trying to get the singer of Rap for next Christmas episode? Can you find him?
Who sang that? I don't know. I would love.
That'd actually be a pretty cool one to have on here.
That would be great. Yeah, that's gonna be the next Christmas one. Is whoever sang Rap, assuming they haven't blocked it from their memory.
Excellent here.
Yeah.
So tell me about a time you were like starstruck with somebody you were interviewing. I'm sure it's happened on multiple occasions, but just which one stands out to you?
You know, it's weird. Like I'm not that bad about that. Like I said, I kind of do this for a living, so it's not like, I don't know, I don't get too starstruck. I mean, Rob Paulson the first time around I was super nervous about because he's, you know, pretty big star guy. I mean, not even for work though. I've interviewed like Mark Hamill, and that was cool. It wasn't for this, but it was for a piece I did I did a oral history of Christmas with the Joker for Mel Magazine when I worked for Mel Magazine. So that was a big deal. I interviewed Kevin Smith recently, and that was maybe a bit starstruck for that one. But again, that wasn't for Turtles. That was just for work. So it doesn't happen to me a lot, but it does happen on occasion for sure. So
awesome. So what's been the most challenging thing about running your podcast? You've been doing it for a long time. What's some of the more challenging aspects of it?
I don't know, man. I think it's a delight, and the stuff that's hard for me is I kind of farmed out. Early on in my podcast, like my whole objective with the podcast was I just wanted an excuse to talk to these people, right? But like once I did that, like I didn't care about anything else. Like I have to post the episodes, I have to edit them. I don't want to do any of that stuff. That's annoying. I didn't care. So I had this like backlog of episodes, and I kept recording new ones, but I would never put them up. And one day this guy reaches out to me, this guy named Ian Williams, and he says, "Hey, I love your podcast, but your audio sucks. Can I just be your editor?" And I was like, "Yes, that's wonderful." So I forget when he started, but it was early on. It's been years now, at least 4 years. I don't know. Maybe it was around episode 30 or something. He started to be my editor. So all I do now is I record the stuff, send it to Ian. He makes it sound good. He sends it back to me, and I post it. Like, so I don't know what the hardest part is. Like, I email people a lot, but that's not that hard. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of just enjoy the whole thing because, again, the hard part somebody else does. So, like, and then honestly, without him, I probably wouldn't have made it this far because I would have gotten sick of the other part. So I'm very grateful to Ian.
It's a great passion to have. Again, you can't run for 5 years without loving it, in my opinion. The way you do these and present yourself, and what I like too is, like you mentioned too, Brian, is your structure. You can go from 30 minutes to 90 minutes, and it just flows because it's not the same mundane questions. I liked how you did Pat Fraley. You asked like what it was like working with Shredder, and he James Avery, and he explained in the interview, like, well, we all sat together in a booth. So it's funny because I heard that in a couple of your interviews. So do you notice that when you watch newer movies, like the Pixar movies, because they did say like for the voice acting, they actually aren't in the same room anymore? Have you picked up?
That's sadly been the truth for a while now, is that almost no shows, movies, etc. are done together. There's very few. I think Bob's Burgers might be the last one. There's almost nobody who does that anymore.
Oh, man, to me that's like
you can feel that, like, I don't know, I feel like you can, And it's not to say that the things are terrible, because there's been amazing Pixar movies that I certainly connect.
Right.
But I do think there's a spontaneity and there's a feel that you have for it when they're all together that is just kind of lost. You just don't have that anymore.
No, I agree. When I found out, that was like, when I found out Santa Claus wasn't real anymore. Now that I pick it up and I'm aware of it now, I kind of do notice it's like that synergy just isn't the same with the connection you have with the characters.
Yeah, or with each other. Like, it feels like there's no room for improvisation very much. Like, honestly, I think that's one of the great things about Mutant Mayhem. I don't know if you saw Mutant Mayhem or if you liked it.
Oh, yes, I did. Yeah.
But I think that's one thing that movie did spectacularly is the energy between those four kids, because they were all together when they recorded it. That was a must for that movie, and I think that's part of the reason why they click so nicely.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. So I actually went to the old school era of keeping them all together. I didn't know.
Yeah, that was that. Yeah, because it was like the dialogue. Apparently, I talked to Andrew Justra, who was like the scheduling coordinator for those guys, and he was he helped out in the movie and did lots of. He had a handful of roles in the movie, but he was talking about how like that became a must, was to kind of get that energy, was having all four kids in the room at the same time, which you definitely feel in that movie. Like, I think the coolest thing about that movie is like, you don't realize how much you take for granted the teenagers thing, because it really is the first time the Turtles feel like kids. And whether or not everybody loves that, but I mean, I think that having that energy in there made for something really different and cool.
And they were voiced by teenagers, right? All four of them were actually...
Yeah, for the first time ever. I mean, the only other time there was a teenager who did a turtle was Corey Feldman as Donatello in the first one, and I think he was like 19. So...
Very interesting. I did not know that. Thanks for sharing those facts with me. See, I say you're going to start being like Michelle Ivy, being like a walking Wikipedia turtle.
No, Michelle is the official. Like I had Michelle on, and she and I are in touch pretty frequently. Michelle is the official #1 Turtles fan.
That's why I call her the walking Wikipedia. Just any stats, any random pop-ups, and she's got it all.
Yeah, I'm somewhere in the teens or something. I'm not. I'm not. There you go. Michelle is way ahead of me, as are a few other people. Oh God, there's others.
So, what are you most proud of Turtle Tracks?
I mean, I think that I've got to keep it going. That's a big thing. Connecting with people one of my first interviews was Steve Barron, the director of the first movie, which is my favorite. That, along with the '87 series, is my favorite Turtle thing. And one of my questions I had for him was, there's always been this rumor in the Turtle fandom or whatever that Jim Henson didn't like the Turtle movie. And that's always bothered me, because second only to the Turtles, my favorite thing is the Muppets. So I asked him about that. He said, no, he was like, Jim Henson was a little skeptical of the violence going in, but the end result he was very happy with. He kind of compared it to like a swashbuckling Three Musketeers type of thing. So that was a moment I'm proud of. I mean, getting to meet some of these people I've been proud of. I got to go to Portsmouth MiniCon, which was earlier this year, and was like the coolest con I've ever been to, and hang out with and meet people like some of these artists I've met before. Kevin Eastman, get to catch up with him a little bit. Like, so getting to, I also did, I did the official oral sneaker snappers. I don't know if you know what those are.
I do remember those. Yeah, okay, yeah, maybe I've seen those.
Yeah, they're like little pieces of plastic you put over your knots of sneakers.
Yeah, yep.
Why? Like, this is the dumbest thing ever.
Just like Barry Gordon says in the DVD, it was a merchandising feast for these guys.
Yeah, it really is. Oh, the little, you know what I like? There was like little, so one of the Burger King things I like, there's little faces of the turtles, the four turtles, and you can click them on the spokes of your tires of the bike.
Oh yeah, yep. And a lot of those.
Yeah, so there's things like that I like, and that's like the stuff I like now, because I have pretty much everything I want, collector wise. So like now it's the random weird junk that I like. Like I got this not long ago, like a turtle Christmas snow globe. Like that's the stuff I like now, is the weird stuff from back in the day, more so than finding figures and stuff. So.
It's just to check out, Turtle Tracks. You actually had a show with the guy who had the turtle pies, right? I saw that on you.
Yes, Mike Coates, who's like dedicated his whole existence to finding out everything about
stay with a straight face. Good job, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. What I like about it too is he's dug in so much to know everything about this one thing, more than anybody else like on the planet. So it's really cool. And Mike is a good dude. and he knows everything about the turtle pies. Yeah, he's cool.
Weirdest pizza you've ever tried?
I ended up eating a couple from the Turtle Show, and I feel like one of them had marshmallows on it. But one pizza I ate was because this is from two different flavors from the show, pepperoni and hot fudge, and then the other half was marshmallows with guacamole. And both were terrible. They were awful.
Well, you're still standing, so you survived them. Favorite memory as a child with the Ninja Turtles was?
I don't know. I played with my brother a lot when I was a kid with turtles. There was these I think it was like a local Howard Johnson's had these people in turtle suits when I was like a really little kid. So like there'd be like Mikey and Raph and a Splinter in this terrible costume. So those stand out to me. The first movie I think I remember seeing in the theater was the third movie. I think I saw 1 and 2 in theaters. I just don't remember having seen them.
Final question: favorite Master Splinter quote from anything, comics, TV show, movies?
I think I've always liked Cowabunga. That's a good one. I'm trying to show some love to the 2007 Splinter, who I love, but I couldn't think of a line. But I think I'll go with I've always liked Cowabunga from the end of the first movie. So
awesome. Well, Brian, we appreciate your time once again. Congratulations on 5-6 years of Turtle Tracks, and we look forward to more, hopefully another 100 episodes in the next 5 or 6 years.
Thanks, man. Appreciate having me on. History of The Last Ronin for Inverse Magazine. I wrote up interviewed everybody involved with those books and did the official history of that comic. And so that was a huge deal for me. So I've done a lot of stuff that I'm really proud of for that through the podcast and because of the podcast. So I don't know how to pick one, but there's a bunch. So.
And what drives you to keep going? Like, are there any other goals, somebody you want to have on the podcast? Where do you see this show the next 5-6 years?
I don't know. I mean, like, I haven't gotten tired of it. Like, I don't think. I mean, I don't know how long it'll go, or if it'll go forever or whatever. Like, I don't know. But I haven't tired of talking to these people, and there's so much ground to cover that I could arguably never run out of guests because they keep making new stuff. And like I said, the obscurity of Foot Soldier number 3 in this movie doesn't, like, that interests me. It's not, so like I don't really have I've talked to most of the directors of the Turtles movies, but there's a few I haven't. I'd like to talk to Jeff Rowe. If I ever get a chance to talk to Seth Rogen, that'd be awesome, but who knows? That's
about Jim Cummings, the voice of Leatherhead, and some other voices. He was hilarious as Leatherhead in the show we grew up with. I loved him as Leatherhead.
He was great. Funny enough, I interviewed, not for this, but for work, I interviewed Jim Cummings like 3 days ago.
Oh, wow.
For a work thing. But I was going to see maybe he'll come back and do Turtles. That would be cool. Because I love his Leatherhead also, and he's done another handful of voices. I mean, more people from the 2003 series would be cool. Like, I haven't talked to any voice actor. Well, I talked to one voice actor from the show, Scott Williams, who was the voice of Baxter. I'd love to have the kids on who did Mutant Mayhem. So yeah, I mean, like I said, there's like an endless list of people that I could go after. So yeah, I mean, I've still got a bunch of people I'd love to talk to.
So where can people who are new and just hearing you for the first time, where can people find your podcast?
I put it all up on SoundCloud, and it carries over to Apple Podcasts and a handful of other ones. People keep telling me to get it on Spotify. I put them up on YouTube now too, so a lot of people find it easier to listen to them that way. So I'm uploading the older episodes on there as well as the new ones as they come out. So yeah, I mean, everywhere. SoundCloud's a big one, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube are the biggest, probably the easiest ways to find me. So.
Oh, perfect. Brian, if you have a few more minutes, I just want to play some fun rapid fire since we are both diehard Turtle fans. You ready for a couple easy ones? Alrighty, favorite video game of the Turtles franchise?
Turtles in Time.
Turtles in Time? For Super Nintendo or arcade?
The arcade. I have, it's not with me, I recently moved, but I have the full arcade cabinet.
Oh wow, just like the one you have of the original behind you? Oh, nice.
That's the arcade one-up one, but I do have the original one as well.
Oh, the authentic one? Where you can hear the pizza power and all that good oh man.
Yeah, so that it's definitely Turtles in Time, although Shredder's Revenge is excellent, so I'm loving I do love Shredder's Revenge. It's very good.
Favorite oddball merchandise you had as a kid? Was it some bed sheets, like the Turtle cereal bowls? What was
like when I was a kid? Like I love some of those Burger King toys. Those were cool. What else was there? I had sneaker snappers. I don't know if you know what those are.
I do remember those. Yeah, okay, yeah, maybe I've seen those.
Yeah, they're like little pieces of plastic you put over your knots of sneakers.
Yeah, yep.
Why? Like, this is the dumbest thing ever.
Just like Barry Gordon says in the DVD, it was a merchandising feast for these guys.
Yeah, it really is. Oh, the little, you know what I like? There was like little, so one of the Burger King things I like, there's little faces of the turtles, the 4 turtles, and you can click them on the spokes of your tires of the bike.
Oh yeah, yep. And a lot of those.
Yeah, so there's things like that I like, and that's like the stuff I like now because I have pretty much everything I want, collector wise. So like now it's the random weird junk that I like. Like I got this not long ago, like a turtle Christmas snow globe. Like that's the stuff I like now is the weird stuff from back in the day, more so than finding figures and stuff. So.
And you'll find it in the some Facebook collector groups, just the food. I mean, even again, guys, just to check out, Turtle Tracks. You actually had a show with the guy who had the turtle pies, right? I saw that on you.
Yes, Mike Coates, who's like dedicated his whole existence to finding out everything about
to say it with a straight face. Good job, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. What I like about it too is he's dug in so much, everything about this one thing. More than anybody else like on the planet, so it's really cool. And the Mike is a good dude.
Weirdest pizza you've ever tried? We've all had one at least.
I ended up eating a couple from the Turtle Show, and I feel like one of them had marshmallows on it. One piece I ate was because this is from 2 different flavors from the show, pepperoni and hot fudge, and then the other half was marshmallows with guacamole. And both were terrible. They were awful.
Well, you're still standing, so you survived them. What is your favorite memory as a child with the Ninja Turtles?
There was these like I think it was like a local Howard Johnson's had like these people in turtle suits when I was like a really little kid. So like there'd be like Mikey and Raph and a Splinter in this terrible costume. So those stand out to me. The first movie I think I remember seeing in the theater was the 3rd movie.
Favorite Master Splinter quote?
I think I've always liked Cowabunga. That's a good one.
Well, Brian, we appreciate your time. Once again, congratulations on 5-6 years of Turtle Tracks, and we look forward to more, hopefully another 100 episodes in the next 5 or 6 years.
Thanks, man. Appreciate having me on.
King Mike and the heroes in a half shell.
Thanks for listening to Shellonomics. Follow us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for the video version. Stay tuned for more Ninja Turtles insights.